What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to build and play Zhong Kui in Smite, and the main game mode I'm going to talk about is going to be Conquest, because you can play him as mid, solo and support, but I'm also going to tell you guys how you can change these builds slightly to make them more suitable for Joust or Arena. And as always, I'll leave the timestamps in the link below for when I'm talking about each role, or when I do mention how to change the build for a specific game mode, and then I'll put a timestamp for when I'm talking about how you actually use his abilities, in which order you should use them, and any tips and tricks for the leveling order as well, and how you should be using the abilities in general. So without further ado, let's get into the abilities first, and go through what each of them do, including his passive for those people that haven't really played Zhong Kui before. So with his passive, as you can see above my health bar here, it's basically a bag which is on his back, and every time a minion dies, or minion or any camp or anything that's not a god, I think, or like a big thing, if it's a camp or a minion, if it dies near you within 80 units, then you get a stack in your bag, and that stacks up to 40. Each stack gives one physical and one magical protection. When he uses his ult, he loses half of them, and when he dies, he loses half of them, and that's pretty much the passive. Pretty simple. I just think that his passive is the main reason he can be played as solo and support as well, really well, because it does make him really tanky, and that's what gives him an advantage in the mid as well. His one, which is my favorite ability, is he basically just throws like, I don't know, it's usually a card on the main skin, but this is just like a ghost thing, and he throws that, and it basically ticks for damage every second for 5 seconds, so that's basically 5 ticks, and it also slows them 20%. The main reason I like it is because it's 5 seconds, so if they're trying to get away, you are still able to get a lot of damage off them, and a lot of the time, if you just get that on them, they'll walk away and it'll keep ticking for 5 seconds, and then you'll randomly get a kill, and you'll be like, you know, what got me the kill, and you click T and it'll say your one killed them. So that's the main reason I like the one. That's the main reason I like Zhong Kui in general, is because how long his one lasts. Not to mention that it does have a 20% slow, so if you combine that with a Gem of Isolation, then that'll basically be a 40% slow. His second ability is basically this area damage that he does, and it basically just does damage, and however, if you do have your one on them, then you get a stack if it's on a minion, so I'll go and demonstrate that here. And what he basically does is up to a maximum of 3 times it can heal you, so you put your one on them, and then as you can see from the minions, firstly I did get 6 stacks because I killed 6 minions, but you also saw those things fly into my bag, and of which 3 of them heal you. So if you are like trying to clear the whole wave, or if you're just trying to get your heal, 3 minions is fine, as that will give you your maximum heal, and the heal is there, it scales obviously off your power. So that's basically what the 2 does. You can use it without having your one on them, but it's just better to have your one on them. As you can see here, if the card is removed, 75% of the remaining damage is done instantly. So compared to doing that, letting that go through, and then once that's worn off, then you do your 2, it's much better to have your one on them, and then you'll do that more burst damage instantly, because the remaining damage that is left on the one is done instantly, and you want to do the same for the minions. That's pretty what the 2 does. The 3 is pretty much just a stun and damage. However, if you do have your one on them, then they are stunned for 2 times, like if they got the card on them, for what they would usually be. So if it's a 1 second stun, if I have my my one on them, then they're going to get stunned for 2 seconds. That's basically the 3. It's not really rocket science. But one thing you do need to realize is this ghost thing I've got flying around here is basically from my 3. So when you level it, you get it, and when you auto, you can see that it's attacking as well, and it basically just attacks for 50% of your damage. So I'm doing 43, he's doing 21, and that's basically that. And the ult, like I said before, it uses up half of your stacks. It doubles your protections, and it's similar to your one. It does damage every second for 5 seconds. And the reason I really like this ult is because you're immune to knockbacks and slows, and that does include Sobex's pull, because it's technically a knock up, or it knocks you back. I don't know what it is, but it just works for that as well. And you're slow immune, so it's really good if you got a sprint. You pop sprint, you pop your ult, and you can just chase your enemies down. So it's really good in that, and it's got a really big cone, and there you can see there it does tick 5 times. Just to let you know now, I used to think that it's, you know, the demons in your bag that are attacking them, but it's not. It's just your ult. So if you as you can see, I've got 3. If I was to ult again, it still goes for 5 ticks. If your bag is empty, it can still tick for 5 times, so you don't need to worry about having your bag full. But one of the main reasons I do like it is because it does double your protections that you get from the bag, meaning if you do have a full bag and you ult, it'll basically give you 80 protections, so yeah, that's really good. And that's basically his whole kit, but without further ado, let's get into what you actually want to be building on him. So I am going to start off with mid. So in mid, you want to start off with the Mage's Blessing, and I start off with the first tier Bancrofts, mainly just because the Bancrofts really does help you survive in the lane. The healing is crazy, especially when you have your 1 on minions and you do your 2, you heal from the damage, but then you also get 3 extra heals from your 2. And usually I will choose to finish on my first back. I'll go and get lifesteal boots first, just because I feel like cooldown is good on Zhong Kui, which I do get later on, but for the early game the burst is a lot better. The amount of times where the enemy god is trying to run away and I just burst him down and he just dies, and it's just really good and crazy damage. So that's why I prefer to go lifesteal boost for the extra power, and the lifesteal combined with Bancrofts is also good as well for surviving. So then on my second back, I'll go and finish my Bancrofts, and this is the point where you have to look what's in your lane. If you got a healer in your lane, you want to go and get a Divine Ruin, which is there. However, if you don't have a healer in your lane, or if there's not a lot of healers in the game in general, I just go for the Chronos Pendant, just because the cooldown does get really nice. You're ulting more, you're immune to slows and knockbacks more, you're really good for poking as well with your 1, and it just works really well. I think with Zhong Kui, you can do your abilities more, you can stun them more, everything is basically happening more. And with Zhong Kui, the reason he can be played as support and solo is because he does have that CC, he's got his stun, and he does have his slow from his 1, so that's really good. That's why I'll go Chronos Pendant. I'll go for both scenarios, usually it's just one item that's changing. After a Chronos Pendant, I do usually like to go a Karen's Coin, just because if they have a solo laner and a support at this point in the game, you know, mid to 60% into the game, they can be really tanky and it does get really annoying, so I prefer to go for the Karen's Coin for the 20% penetration. And also you want to get it a bit earlier, like not 5th or 6th item or even 7th, because you want to be stacking it, so that's why you want to get it at this point in the game. Now, again, at this point I look at the gods in the game. Are they building like that new hammer that gives like 300 health? Are they building a lot of defensive items that give them a lot of health? If they are, then I will choose to go for Soul Reaver, just because it does percent of health damage, and it does bump up your percentage penetration to 30%, which is really good. However, if they don't have that, then I will just opt for the Typhon's Fang, as the lifesteal combined with Bancrofts is also really good. But most of the time I will go for the Soul Reaver, and honestly, as the percentage pen cap is 40%, I will sometimes just do that, sell that for Typhons, and then I'll have my 40% penetration. However, if they do have like 80% anti-heal, if they have a Beat Stick, a Divine, Pestilence, if they have all of that, I feel like the Typhons is not really worth it, so I will just go for like a gem. It does give you that extra bit of tankiness. And now your 1 does slow for 40% for 5 seconds, as your 1 damages them for 5 seconds, and it says any enemy hit by your damage abilities will move 20% over for 1 second. So I'll go a gem there. You can also, however, choose to go for the new Spear of Magus, which is really good right now. So it gives you 110 power, 10 penetration, and then any enemy that you hit, they're marked and they take 7% damage from everything. So that's really good, because if I have that and I put my 1 on them, they'll be marked, and then my 2 will burst them, but it will burst them even more because of the 7.5% increased damage. And if they're still not dead, you can finish them off with your 3. So you can go there and then sell your boots for Gem of Isolation, or you can get Gem of Isolation first and then sell that. However, this item is where it changes, so if they do have healers, then I'll go a Divine Ruin. If they don't have healers, then I'll go a Spear of Magus. So that's basically what it depends on, but as a mid build, this is what I'll be going. Again, so if this is going to be a Divine or a Spear of Magus. This is going to be a Gem of Isolation or a Typhons. Again, it's always based on if they're building a lot of anti-heal, you go for the Gem rather than Typhons. If they're not, you go for the Typhons. And same with that, if they have healers, then you go Divine. If they don't have healers, then you go Spear of Magus. So in this build, you have 40% penetration. In this build, you have 30% penetration. However, you do have the extra tankiness from Gem of Isolation in terms of health. And this is just 20% cooldown, but to be honest, late game you can ask the solo if you can get blue buff. Even if he doesn't let you get blue buff, just take a red potion, I'll give you 10%. So you'll have 30% cooldown, which is more than enough for Zhong Kui. Relics, I prefer to go just Aegis, and then I like to go beads if there's a lot of CC going on. If not, I'll just go for blink, because I can blink ult, or I'll just go for a sprint, as I really like popping sprint and then ulting. But again, relics are up to you. And yeah, that's how I'm going to be building him in mid. Now what I'm going to say about this build is this is pretty much the same build that you're going to use in arena as well as Joust, just because you know, it's just you're playing a damaging god. You got that little bit of tankiness, but in terms of damage that you want to be building, you just want to be building these 6 items. In arena, I guess you wouldn't get to the point where you sell your boots, so in arena you would just have a lifesteal boost there. However, in Joust you might get to that point in the game in which case you can't have these 6 items, and this is what I would recommend for that as well. Now I'm going to move on to solo, which is, I think, the best, the optimum role for Zhong Kui to play is solo, just because of him getting the free 40 physical and magical protections. And the way I start with him in solo is I start off with Warrior's Blessing, and at this point I look if it's a King Arthur or a Hell or some annoying god that's healing, like a Hades as well, or Erlang Shen who heals quite a bit from his ult. I'll go first tier Divine, and then from first tier Divine I'll go into a Shoes of Magi, just for that extra power. It does make the clear a lot better, not to mention it gives you a bit more survivability, but in general with Zhong Kui it is about the burst, so you do want to be going for the more raw power. After that I will most likely, if the healing is getting too much of a problem, I'll go Divine first. If the healing is not too much of a problem, I'll just go Breastplate of Valor. Most of the time I can cope with the healing, as I do have the regular poke with my wand, so it like kind of cancels out. But if it is getting too much, then I'll go Divine. But as first 3 items, this is usually what I go. If they don't just have like healers in general, I'll just opt out for either a Gem of Isolation or a Spear. It's usually a Gem of Isolation, so I'll start tier 1 Gem of Isolation if they don't have healers, but most of the time it is just Divine Ruin. You can also choose to go a Spear or Magus if you want, but that's completely up to you. 90% of the time I will just go Divine Ruin. Now at this point, again, if the healing is a problem, I will go a Pestilence at this point. So now I've got physical item protection, physical item for protections, and magical item for protections, and I've got that tankiness here. And now, as you can see, I've got 1 stack here, but you can literally add 40 to that. So I will have around 180 physical and magical protections, and that is just 2 defensive items, just because this passive is amazing. Now, if the healing is not too much of a problem, I might go like a Karen's Coin over here, just because as solo I feel like you're not doing damage in terms of power, so if you are doing any damage you want it to actually hit, so you can get a Karen's Coin. You can also get a Gem of Isolation or a Spear of Magus. I personally like to go Gem of Isolation, as you are solo, so you want to be more tanky. It does give 200 health, which is just great for surviving, and I will probably end up selling the Warrior's Blessing for Ethereal as well. But most of the time I'll go Mantle of Discord first and then sell my boots for the Ethereal stuff. So I've got Ethereal giving me health, stealing health for me, I've got health from Pestilence, and I've got health from Gem of Isolation, and I've got more than enough protections. Now, for example, if I go here, so me as solo, I have 2,878 health and a decent amount of protections, and I'll wait here as well. Now for the relics, I think it's pretty obvious. You just go a teleport, and then I will usually go shell, as I'm trying to be the team player. So that's why I'm going to be going shell. So this is the 2 relics that I get most of the time. As you can see here now, I've got 2,900 health. It's just crazy. And one more time I could get 3k health. So 3k health with around 220 protections. I'll go and stand near the lane minions and then talk about what we're going to be doing. And that is basically how I'm going to be building him in solo. This build gives you currently 20% cooldown, just like the mid build. However, with your red pot, you do end up getting the last 10% cooldown to give you a total of 30% cooldown. So like I said before, 20% cooldown is more than enough for... I mean, no, this actually gives 30% cooldown, my bad. 30% cooldown, then red pot gives you 40%, so this, I mean, even with the 20% you would be fine. You could choose to go a different defensive item, you could go hide with the urchin earlier to get the stacks and that'll give you a shield, but 30% cooldown, with the red pot you get 40% cooldown, you got 270 power, with your passive you'll have like 220 protections, 230 protections, each physical and magical, not to mention you'll have almost like 2,800 health all the time from stealing it from opponents. And that's the reason why Zhong Kui is really good in solo. So this is the best build I would say for solo that I've tried, and it just works really well. Now I'm going to be moving on to support. Bear with me, I'm just going to sell these items. And my support build surprisingly has been working really well. I'll tell you reasons for that now. So to build Zhong Kui in support, obviously you're going to start off with Guardian's Blessing. And now this is where the interesting part comes in. So you can honestly build all 3 items. So as you know, the 2 heals you when minions have your 1 on them, so that will give you the movement speed that you want. I don't usually go that, I go with that more on Baron. Gauntlet is usually the one that goes on everyone, it just gives Zhong Kui that extra protections. But because I mean, he's getting around 50 protections from Gauntlet of Thieves, he gets 40 from his passive. Me personally, I will literally just opt for the Mail of Renewal. I've been doing this and it has been working really well. Obviously I'll get first tier into power boots just cause, you know, Zhong Kui as a support, you still want a little bit of that burst early game. It does help your hunter get ahead. And then honestly I will straight up just go for a Mail of Renewal as my passive. You know, I've got that easy protections that I can constantly keep getting, and in team fights the Mail of Renewal works amazingly. I'm going to try and get some gameplay out of me just killing a load of, well, me getting assist on a load of gods, and I just keep on healing. As you can see, Mail of Renewal does not have a cooldown, and because it doesn't have a cooldown, every single kill that you get, you just keep healing, and it does say or objective as well, so it's really good for that. And when it is a 5v5 team fight, usually as a support, around 2-3 kills in I die, just cause, you know, I've got like 5 gods attacking me. However, with Mail of Renewal, as my team does take off 1 god at a time, I do keep healing, and especially when you have 3,000 health with Zhong Kui late game, 15% of that you're going to be healing, so that's going to be around 450 health per god kill. So you're going to have like, you basically got like 2 health bars. So that is just crazy. This point, if they have more physical gods, again this is going to be the part about physical gods or magical gods. If they have 3 physical gods, I go for a best plate. If they have more magical gods, I'll go for a heart ward. Most of the time it is 3 physical, so I'm going to go for the breastplate, and from the breastplate I go into a sovereignty. And usually, like I said, they will always have a healer, so just to get that magical defense in, I'll go for the pestilence. Last item, as I am support, but Zhong Kui just as his 1 slows, for team fights his 1 is really good. You have like 2-3 people there, you get your 1 on them with the Gem of Isolation, they're just slowed for 40% for 5 seconds, your team can easily kill them. If you want to sell boots and then go Gem of Isolation, you can. So you can go Mantle of Discord there and then Gem of Isolation after selling boots. If you think you're dying too much and you need the more protections, if you think you're doing perfectly fine, then get the Gem of Isolation first. Again, it's a really good item, gives you some power, so you can actually be doing some damage to help out your team. It also gives you Kraken reduction and that health to make you tankier, and then you do still have the Mantle of Discord if you do want to go that first. If not, I usually prefer to go Gem first, just to, like that 80% into the game, you do start slowing them a lot, and with your Gem of Isolation and your 1, and I'll go Mantle of Discord last. It's just really great for if you pop your ult, you're just fighting them, and then when you get a bit low, they get stunned, your team will kill them, and you heal from Mail of Renewal. It just works really good. And I've just had people raging after games like, you know, how is that allowed? And it's because people really underestimate Mail of Renewal. It's really good on supports. Not to mention it just gives straight up 400 health, which is just crazy. As you can see here, I've got 3,200 health. Now that is like amazing. And if you do 15% of that, I don't even know, that's like 500 health. So every god killed you get 500 health. So 5 gods killed you get 2,500 health. That's like 1.8 health bars that you got or something. And that's why it's really good. Relics, if we have a lot of healers, late game med is like really useless. And they're going to get anti-heal and then it doesn't really work. If they don't have a lot of healers, I'll go for med and then shell. If they do have a lot of, if you do have a lot of healers and they're going to go anti-heal, I'll go shell into a sprint. The sprint is really good for your assassins and your hunters for catching up enemies. Not to mention, it's good for you as well for a team fight. In case your enemy's trying to escape, you got the sprint to go and chase them. Not to mention you got your one slowing for 40%. And that is basically how you want to be building Zhong Kui as support. Honestly, trust me, you got to try out this build. I've been trying it out, and late game potential is just crazy, and it works really well. So now I'm going to be talking about how to level Zhong Kui's abilities. Usually in all roles I'll just do the same. I always start off with the 1. Firstly, it does 20 damage times 5, so 100. But usually people are like, why don't you start off with your 2? But the 1, I just feel like the poking potential is a lot better as well. The amount of times where obviously the 1 hits the whole wave, I'm basic attacking and they're also dying as well. And then usually when it's cleared, I'll hit my enemy with the 1 as well as the minions, and then as soon as I hit level 2, I'll get my 2, and they really don't expect it. I'll do my 1 on them and burst them, and they are literally almost every single time I always get the first kill in mid, because no one really ever expects the damage from the 1-2. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I'll put a level in my 1 again, and then my ultimate. I'll max my 1 first again, so your 2 is already doing damage, and if this is gonna your 2, if they got the card on them, you do 75% of the remaining damage, meaning if you do your 2 and this has more damage remaining, the burst is just gonna be greater. But I'll max my 1 first, then my 2, and then I'll just go between my 3 and my 4, just because. I mean, the 3 is better just because you stun for longer, so you can choose to go 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can choose to go 1, 2, and then alternate between your 3 and your 4. But that's completely up to you. Just as long as you do your 1 and then your 2 first, which are your main sources of burst damage, you should be fine. Now on to how to play Zhong Kui. My tips for playing him is always start off obviously with your 1. You can honestly out-auto them like that because they're taking tick damage on your 1 for 5 seconds, which is more than enough time. And you can always have your 1 on them, auto-attack them a bit, catch up to them, and then do your 2, so you'll still do a decent amount of damage. If you are in a team fight, I recommend doing more of a do that and then stun them, because they will be stunned for 2 seconds if they do have the mark on them. And it's not always in Conquest, it's about, I've got to get the kills. If your team is there, you put that on them, you slow them for 40%, and then you stun them for 2 seconds, and your team will kill them, and then you can still win the game. So that's when you're playing them. And then my second tip would be, after you apply your 1, just apply your ult. They're slowed by your 1, and then they're slowed from your gem, from your ult as well. Your teammates are attacking them while you have ulted them. If they seem to be getting out of range, just stun them, and then by that time you can just put your 1 on them again. But yeah, it's pretty simple how you play Zhong Kui. I think it's just all about knowing if after you've applied your 1 you want to do your 2 or you want to do your 3. As damage, you want to do your 1 and then your 2. As support, you want to do your 1 and then stun them so your teammate can kill them. And remember, you have Gem of Isolation, so always just pop your ult in team fights, just so you're guaranteed that everyone there is at least 20% slowed. And yeah, that's pretty much how you want to be building and playing Zhong Kui in Conquest. And like I said, the mid build is used for Arena and Joust, pretty much the exact same. Unless you want to be support in Joust as well, you can just use the support build from here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I've just been really enjoying Zhong Kui a lot recently, so I thought I'd share with you guys how I've been building him, and yeah, I just think he's really, really good. He's, in my opinion, on par with Baron in terms of the tankiness, the healing, just the way he works. I think he's just crazy good. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any other gods you want to see, leave it in the comments below. I'm trying to get through the list of everyone's gods, but I've just been playing a lot of Zhong Kui, so I thought I'd make a guide on him. But if you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.